Tonight, somewhere on a college campus, a student swallows a small orange pill that isn't theirs. Within 30 minutes, their brain floods with dopamine. They feel sharper, faster, almost brilliant. But here's the part nobody tells them. Study after study shows their grades usually don't improve at all. So what is actually happening in their head? And why does something that clearly doesn't work still feel like it does? Picture trying to study in a crowded, noisy cafe. Your brain has a volume knob for background noise. Turn it down, and the chatter fades. The page gets clearer. You can finally think. That's what this pill does. When it's working the way it's supposed to, it turns down the noise. But give that same volume knob to a brain that didn't need turning down, and something different happens. The knob doesn't stop at quiet. It keeps turning. One small sound in the room becomes impossible to ignore. A single sentence gets rewritten 11 times. A paragraph gets reread for the 4th time with nothing sinking in. That locked-in feeling isn't focus. It's tunnel vision wearing focus's clothes. 2 students take the exact same pill tonight. One of them has a real diagnosed difference in how their brain regulates attention. For them, the noise in the cafe finally drops to a level where they can think. The other student's brain was never that noisy to begin with. For them, the volume doesn't drop. It overshoots. Same pill, same dose. 2 completely different nights. But this story didn't start in a dorm room. It started in a lab in 1887, when a chemist accidentally created a compound that would later be called amphetamine. For decades, it did nothing but sit in a notebook, forgotten. Then, in the 1930s, someone put it in a drugstore inhaler to treat stuffy noses. And people noticed something strange. They weren't just breathing easier. They were staying up later, working faster, feeling unstoppable. Some people started cracking the inhalers open just to chase that feeling. Soldiers noticed next. Exhaustion loses wars, so militaries on both sides of World War II handed the same drug to their troops to keep them awake, alert, and fearless through nights that should have broken them. A few years later, a chemist synthesized a related compound and gave it to his wife before her tennis matches. It gave her a noticeable lift. He named the drug after her. By the 1960s, doctors were giving it to children who couldn't sit still in class. And somewhere in the decades since, it quietly slipped out of pediatric medicine and into backpacks, dorm rooms, and finals week. Every generation found a new use for the exact same molecule. First, it helped people breathe. Then it helped soldiers stay awake. Then it helped children sit still. Now it helps students borrow someone else's brain chemistry before an exam. It's 2:17 in the morning. A student has rewritten the same sentence 11 times. They haven't noticed 2 hours have passed. Their hands are a little unsteady. Their heart is beating faster than it should be for someone sitting still. In their head, one thought keeps looping. If they fail this exam, the scholarship disappears. They think they're focused. They're trapped. So why does it feel like it works? If it usually doesn't help the grade at all? Because the drug changes how confident you feel, not how good the work actually is. You feel smarter. The essay doesn't get smarter, just faster, and often messier. Ask that student the next morning to explain what they wrote at 3 a.m., and there's a good chance they can't. But here's what almost nobody tells you. That surge doesn't stay up. It comes down, usually hard, and often before the student even wakes up the next morning. Fatigue, irritability, a flat, foggy heaviness that feels like the exact opposite of the confidence the night before promised. Some students call it the crash. It's less a mood and more a debt collector. The brain borrowed a feeling it didn't earn, and now it's due. The next afternoon, that same student sits in the same seat, staring at the same exam, except now the confidence from the night before is gone, and so is most of the sleep. Their leg won't stop bouncing under the desk. Not from focus this time. From withdrawal, the body doesn't have a name for yet, because as far as it's concerned, it never agreed to any of this in the first place. And it still doesn't explain why some people reach for it again and again, even after feeling that crash. Because the brain remembers the spike. It remembers the noise dropping out, the false clarity, the confidence. Take it enough times, and the same dose stops producing the same lift. So the dose creeps up. This is precisely why these pills are legally treated the same way as morphine and cocaine. Not because they're the same drug, because the risk of dependence is real, and it doesn't care whether the prescription belongs to you. There are physical costs too: a racing heart, rising blood pressure, real anxiety, the kind that shows up as a tight chest at 4 a.m. In rare cases, especially mixed with alcohol, genuine cardiac danger. Picture a dorm hallway on a Sunday night before finals. A door opens, a pill changes hands. No cash sometimes, just a favor owed. It happens so quietly, so casually, that neither person thinks of it as a drug deal. It looks more like borrowing a charger. More than half of students with a real prescription say they've been asked to share their medication. Think about what that means. A drug meant to treat a specific neurological difference has quietly become a currency, passed hand to hand in a hallway, looking safe simply because it comes in a labeled bottle instead of a plastic bag. The student giving the pill away rarely thinks twice. They've taken it themselves for years. It's just their prescription, sitting in an orange bottle on a shelf, and a friend needs one. Nobody in that hallway feels like they're doing anything dangerous. That's exactly what makes it spread so easily. It doesn't look like a drug problem. It looks like a favor. Humans have always looked for a shortcut through exhaustion. Ancient soldiers chewed coca leaves to march further than their bodies wanted to. Pilots in 2 world wars were handed amphetamine tablets to fight through fear and fatigue that should have grounded them. Every era finds its chemical crutch for the exact moment the body says stop and the deadline says keep going. The difference now is that the crutch belongs to someone else. It's borrowed, traded, passed along like it's harmless, because it looks medical, because it comes from a friend and not a stranger, because the packaging says it was made for a brain, not necessarily yours. Tonight, somewhere on a college campus, a student swallows a small orange pill that isn't theirs, hoping it makes them smarter. It won't. Tomorrow morning, they'll wake up tired in a new way. Not the tired that sleep fixes. The tired that comes from a brain that spent the night convinced it was someone else's. The cruelest part isn't that the pill steals a night of sleep. It's that it convinces a perfectly healthy brain it was broken all along.